You are listening to Aim Higher, a Catholic podcast designed to instruct and to encourage the daily practice of our faith. Pax et bonum, peace and good to you all. This is Aim Higher podcast. I am Father Anthony. With me is Sister Catherine. And, well, Sister, it's been a minute, hasn't it?
It's been quite a few minutes.
And that's what the kids say nowadays. Of course,
I don't. No, I don't. I don't think
was
the
the
kids.
term well, you see, was the term "it's been a minute"? Was that from our generation? 'Cause I don't remember hearing it. It was only from from this current new generation. I don't know how we want to put
Well,
it.
how about any of our lovely young youth listening want to chime in and let us know? But I'm thinking that's you're right in this. In I don't think it was like our generation that used it. No, actually, our generation would use the term "like" a lot, which I did just a little bit before. I remember getting chastised a lot for doing that, but that's how a lot of people were speaking, and so I try to catch myself, but I'm also hyper focused on not saying a lot, and that's a lot too, plus not speaking too quickly. So that's a lot of stuff going on in my mind that if I throw down a "like," I'm gonna let it go. Let it go. Um See, here we go. It's gonna be a ride. So all that to say is I
Uh,
maybe early 2000s, maybe it might have been more of a thing. I mean, I'll say it. I'll say a lot of things that, um
okay.
here we go. Yeah,
Mm, it's
I
just
mean,
I
dad
just don't remember hearing that being used, and I've heard, I guess it's kinda like the carryovers because I remember using the word groovy when we were growing up, and, of
I
course,
was just about to say that because dad used it.
I would tease dad about it. So I'm guessing it might be it, but it's just like, you know, uh,
Well,
like, "What's the sitch?" Like,
gosh.
"What's the sitch?" Like, what's the stitch?" I have a hearing issue, so what's the stitch? No, what's the sitch? What the situation? Oh, the situation? Okay, I guess,
Is this something you're reviewing? No, we're not gonna go down that road.
yeah.
Um,
But anyway,
it's
before we go down this rabbit hole that we have a hard time getting out of, I'm just gonna say it's been a while since we've done
it
a
has.
episode.
Mhm. We had recorded a few in a row because we kinda anticipated
Mm.
a lot of busyness, and I actually think the last time we recorded was before you even came to Rochester for the clergy retreat. I don't know if that's right, but it feels like it.
It might have
I I I
been.
I could look back, on some dates here, but it could have been, but see, because
It
that was
might
such
have
an
been.
interesting it could have been, especially since you didn't end up leaving until October 1st because of your
Mm,
injury to your leg, so it was
yeah.
just kind of and then October blew by. For a while, it felt a little dragging because, I was anticipating a a trip at the end of October, so I was just like, "Okay." But now we're only 2 weeks till Thanksgiving, which, yeah, secular holiday, but still, a good day to also give to God first.
Mhm.
So, it's and then
Well,
after that, it's less than a month till Christmas, and then
it's a day that
much
reminds us about Thanksgiving, one of the ends of our prayer. So, hey, we might as well Christianize it, use it correctly. Yeah, I guess it may have been that long. It's been about
mhm,
at least a
at
month.
least a month. It's been intense, and, I'm currently wrapping up getting the prayer partners for Advent, written out and have those in the mail. Thankfully, Bridget helped me with that this year. Uh,
No, that
I
was
don't
also another thing that I know one of the reasons why we didn't get together because you did have Bridget came back
or if
with
you
you because you went down to Kentucky. Right, yeah, you went to
Correct.
Kentucky. Yeah, you were in
I went.
Kentucky.
But it requires going down, but yeah, so I accompanied His Excellency on his mission trip. We went to Michigan and then into Ohio and then down to Kentucky, and
Mhm.
part of the reason was, to have someone accompany him because 'cause he's been driving himself the last few months on the
Oh.
trip, and then it's a long day because he flies out he flies out of New York down to Cincinnati and then drives up to Michigan or I think Ohio, and then the next day Michigan. And it's a long day the first day. So, but the opportunity came so this past mission trip, that Saturday was November 1st, which was All Saints Day, and Bridget had planned to do something with, the children for All
Mhm,
Saints, and it's any of those who, seen it in schools, they do what they call a wax museum. The children dress up as different
mhm.
historical figures, and
Yep.
then they all stand around and you press a button on them, and they're supposed to tell you about this character. So she applied that to the different saints. The children all chose saints that they wanted. We had close to 20 children participate. I mean, not all of them, were able to press buttons and speak, but and if anybody's wondering like, "Oh, that sounds really wonderful. I would love to know more about that." Well, I have great news for you. Starting in January, we are amplifying our Growing in Holiness newsletter. I don't know if amplifying is the word, expanding. It's actually going to be a little larger.
Mhm,
And we already mapped out the year, dividing the children and pictures of them in their costumes and their own write up about the lives of the saints. So that's all going to be featured in 2026 with the Growing in Holiness newsletter. If you are not on our mail list and you'd like a copy, you can email me, sistercatherine.tor@gmail.com. I can send you a copy or even send you a PDF if you'd like. But it was quite wonderful. It turned out really well. And we even have little videos of the children that will be released as we send out the newsletter. So you'll actually get to see them read what they wrote. And they really did an excellent job, all very impressive. And it was a lot of fun.
mhm.
I believe the consensus was they want to do it again next year.
W
So,
I remember doing something like that back when we were kids at Our Lady of the
mhm,
Rosary, and I
yeah.
think it was around All Saints' Day.
Mhm. Oh, yes.
I only
In fact,
remember it once.
okay, well, you were pretty little.
Yeah,
Um, I remember it at least 2 times,
okay.
and and Bridget said that when they did it similarly, like, everyone took their turn on a stage to read about their saint to
Mhm,
everyone sitting in the audience. That's terrifying. Maybe it's fine for some children, but it was scary. So we really you didn't really wanna do that because not every child is comfortable with that, and who wants to who wants to stand around with a bunch of adults that are just gonna be like, "Well, I couldn't hear you," or, "You could have done this better." There's always like, "You did a nice job, but" and this option, I mean, it was a little bit noisy down in the basement, and,
mhm,
for the next time, they'll try to come up with maybe some other ideas to make it less noisy, but you didn't know what to expect until we did it,
mhm,
but everyone seemed to really enjoy it, and then, yes, Bridget, um, drove back with me, which was really an easy drive. Kentucky to New York is not bad. We were home in
um,
9 hours. We only stopped for dinner, but and the reason why she came back because when we had our youth retreat, we started talking about all these ideas of things, to implement to help everyone grow in holiness. I said, "Well, I think of you should" originally, I said, "You need to come out here and stay a month because we need to organize all this." And there's a lot you can do virtually between emails, even GoToMe's, but
yeah,
what we were working on specifically and she was here for 4 days, so, obviously she couldn't stay a month, but and we are probably better off that she only stayed 4 days because we got a lot done. But it was just easier to do it in person because as we're laying out the new format for the newsletter, we
mm,
had to see, like, how's it look in real time? And, is this font big enough? Does this work? And it's just
Mhm.
easier having the person there in real time. And
Yeah.
as a result, we got, as I said, the whole 2026 mapped out, you know, with a few things that'll have to be changed in between. So we've got some ideas. So that should be hopefully very exciting for everyone. I know we have some people reading our newsletter. I'm hoping everybody does, but it's not going to deter me to not send it out. But it's just a lot going on. And then, as I said, the prayer partners, getting that organized. I just put in an order for the 2026 planners, which actually I got an email that they're ready already. So I'll be putting those in the mail probably next week. We had gotten the calendars in. Um, we've got publications going out, and I decided that I'm gonna have to start the 2027 calendar probably January because
Mhm.
it's getting too busy in the later months to
Yeah.
really focus on it. Plus because and if any of our listeners don't know, in October 2026, Microsoft is getting rid of Publisher,
Yeah.
and I'm still a little bitter about it because I use Publisher for our calendar, for a lot of our publications, and the planner, and so trying to find new to figure that out, and so
Microsoft did not take us into consideration.
they sure did it. I mean,
I take that as a personal offense.
if there was a petition. Oh, I broke the news to the lady at Staples, she had no idea. So I'm it's not just you and I bothered by this, this is probably a lot of people.
Mhm.
And their solution was, "Well, you could use Word."
No,
his
you
excellency
cannot.
his excellency already shifted as soon as that email came out, and he's been doing the Sunday sermons on Word. I have not been that motivated. I'm still using Publisher for the
It's
serif.
it's not as versatile.
No. Well,
Un
that's why
un
I'm
un
trying to figure out.
Unless their plan is to do some updates to Word, but even that scares me when Microsoft
Mhm.
decides to update something because they say, "We're gonna make this better for you," but it turns out to be much more complicated. That's
Yes,
usually what
yes.
happens.
Yes. So I'm trying to figure it out with the program we use for a lot of our other stuff, which is Canva. And I did Under Her Mantle with Canva last month.
Mhm.
So, and Bridget in her wisdom did find that you can upload a PDF to Canva and then edit it. So that might work for the calendar. It's
Mhm.
not going to work for the planner because the planner is too big and it was a hot mess looking at it. So we're going to revamp the 2027 planner. Um, we want to kind of put a fresh spin on it. Not exactly sure what that's going to look like to so anyone that gets a planner, don't be alarmed. The important things will still be there, but we might throw some extra things in there and, but that's why I need to have 2027 figured out as soon as possible because
Mhm.
it was a lot of work putting that planner together in the first place. Now, um, but it is what it is. We roll with it. I don't wanna, like, qualify it as like, "Well, that's just my cross to bear," because that seems a little, um, I don't know. It seems a little disrespectful to the idea of carrying my cross. I mean, this is a difficulty. It's maybe it's a splinter, but of the cross, but I just it's like, it is what it is. We'll figure
No,
it out.
it is what it
I gotta
is.
let go of my bitterness. I mean, I think I pretty much am. I joke about it now, so, unless that's considered denial, I'm not sure. But
Well, I suppose well, you gotta get to the important question for you, sister.
Mm.
How many dresses have you been able to make this year?
I, actually did reach my goal of 50 dresses this year, and I
Nice.
finished that. Thank you. I finished that in September, and I haven't sewn since, so I haven't sewn a dress in 2 months, which feels really weird. I have a dress all cut out. You actually picked out material for me when you were here.
I know.
So,
It
um,
goes well with my eyes.
you do like your autumn colors. You
I do
do.
like my autumn colors. I love them.
And,
I love them. I love autumn.
the I do too. I do too. Even though we got snow, which was kind of rather early, nearly 5 inches over 2 days, but the rains washed it away now, but
Oh,
it's still very fallish, and I'll take it. So I'm hoping to get a few more done before the end of the year. It's just right now, it's a little bit of a crunch time getting things in the mail, and one of the things I joke about with concerning the newsletter is that sometimes I feel like I put a lot on Bridget, that, she does a lot of the layout and content, and I feel like it's not very even as far as my participation, but she would probably disagree on that alone. But,
mhm.
as I've said to her, I was like, "But I print it and fold it and put in the envelopes and mail it," and so she's like, "I don't have to do that." So so it kinda if it is uneven as I feel it is, that kind of brings it a little closer together. Not that it's a contest, not that we're comparing, but it's just like I have to remind myself I'm still doing a lot of work, even if
Yeah.
I feel like other people are doing more for me.
Well, there's a lot of preparation goes into all this, and
Mhm,
especially while having 2 retreats in the air, and it's not something that you just, say, "We're gonna do it next month, we're gonna throw it together." No, it's if you wanna do something well, you have to respect it and give it the proper attention and preparation,
mhm,
and, especially when you have, um, a positive feedback from the children,
mhm.
and, it's why I will be going down to Kentucky next month,
Hopefully. Yeah.
for their St. Nicholas retreat, well, their mini retreat, and, that will be Saint the theme, St. Nicholas Day will be on the Feast of St. Nicholas, so I'm looking forward to it, breaking out the old St. Nicholas, costume, and that'll be good, and we got a something special for Chesterton, which I don't know if Bridget I don't remember talking to you about it, but
I was there.
okay, yeah, you were there at the conception. Got it, I forgot. Sometimes I forget, who I talked to, either you or Bridget or whoever, but, it's kind of a cute idea. Oh, yeah, you were there. I
Mhm.
remember now.
I
Yeah, we were
I was there.
you were driving, and I was driving. That's what was going on. Um, yeah, it's gonna be good, but, it's just kind of entering into a very busy time. I mean, the last few weeks, I've had things unexpected happen, had a funeral down in Illinois, uh, and that takes time, um, but also writing takes a lot of time, and I'm
Mhm,
trying
mhm.
to get ahead in my articles because
Yes.
the next this Christmas whole month of December is so busy,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
not just my going to Kentucky, but then coming back, preparing for the Ember Day retreat, and then getting things decorated for Christmas, and then all the traveling after Christmas, and, get ready to go down to Chile in January, and I'll be there for a whole week, and then I get back from there. It's not so far away that, Lent is coming up, so we'll
Well,
be getting ready for, Candlemas Day, I
yes.
and then Lent. It's just so many
Lent
things.
begins February 18th, I believe, so it's pretty early this year, and then, Holy Week is one of our favorite and busiest weeks, and then once Holy Week hits, it's like, "Alright, now it's time to get ready for the youth retreat,"
Mhm.
and,
It's kind of our mark. Well, we know when Easter is over, that's when we really zero in. Although, like I said, we do preparations well beforehand. We usually get
yeah,
together around January.
yeah,
You, Bridget, myself, I guess
mhm.
we're kind of the brain trust in this, and, throwing out ideas and what we can
Well
do to make it better.
well, and Bridget has a list for when you visit, so you might be able to hash a lot of that out.
Good.
So
I and when I think about this, how important the getting children involved, and I was up north this just this earlier this week,
Mhm,
and a lot of young families up there.
mhm,
And, well, one of the family, they're expecting now. They just, heard, got the news that, they have another child coming, which is great, and it's prompts me to think about how important it is to ensure a Catholic life in the home. And as I speak to them, you are all at some would say a disadvantage because you don't have mass every day or mass even every Sunday. I come out there, um, twice in a week. I've had some ask, "Father, could you come out, like, a second Sunday?" I was like, "We'll have to look at the we'll have to look at the, after I get back from Chile. Maybe we might be able to do that." But, how important it is to engage the children in these, customs that we have, and I said, You're coming into Advent, you're coming into Christmas. It is so, um, such an overabundance of customs to practice." So that was my sermon on a Tuesday night, talking about that and, emailed them the PDF of Religious Customs in the Family by Father
mhm.
Francis Weiser, which we all know I absolutely love the work that man did, and
Mhm.
it's now my time where and I break out the old, Weiser trilogy, his Christmas book, then his Holy Day book, and then his Easter book where I'm
Easter
kinda
egg.
reading it.
Mhm.
It's kinda I feel like, okay, this I was a no, never mind, I'm not gonna make that reference, it's gonna be so niche, uh, most people are not gonna get it. Uh, well, maybe they would. I don't know. But anywho, I was just gonna say is like Christopher Lee reading Lord of the Rings every year. He played Saruman in the movies, and
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
right,
some people
let
might
me
get
move past that one.
I got
But
yeah, I there's probably some people that are they get it.
well, we could get on that
Well
conversation too. We could do a whole few episodes contained in Lord of the Rings. I don't know. I would find it interesting, but,
There might have to be like a bonus.
that'd be a bonus episode, yeah. Uh, but yeah, it's there's so many wonderful customs you can use, and what you wanna see is children become excited, looking forward to it.
Well, and you just remind me I need to order advent candles. Yeah. But I'm excited for this year because we're not gonna put lights out on the chapel this year. I mean, well, we had kept them on for a couple of years, and it's just putting them back on and for the little bit of time. You think, well, that you should still I said, we'll have a tree in the chapel, the nativity, and really the nativity is the important thing. And ultimately within the chapel, the most important thing is there all the time. So,
Mhm.
but to get a little decorative, but I asked if I could do some candles in the window, and I got these battery operated candles to put in, and, I also have enough that I could put some around the house, so I'm thinking, like, the week before Christmas, I will have start lighting those for the anticipation. I think that's generally a custom for Advent. It might be the
Mhm.
entire Advent, but I'm gonna try to be a little bit, frugal in terms of that, but that'll be nice. And I also gotta order poinsettias. Ooh, so many details. It's all gonna come up. I might do that today. Mental note.
And I suppose I'll just mention here another thing I'm preparing for is the next church project. So we just finished, last that's one of the other reasons I was busy, just
Painting.
this last month painting the church.
Mhm.
We've got the, vestibule finished, we got the choir loft finished. It looks really nice. But now it's time to update the basement, get that going. So we'll see how that goes when I
And
present
for
that.
anyone listening that would really like to see what the updates in the Church of Our Lady of the Rosary look like, if you stream mass, which has been working phenomenally the last few months, and it's up on YouTube Live, and then it's saved. But one of our plans in the next year, as far as our newsletter goes, is we want to do like parish spotlight. So at some point, we're going to be asking you, or you point someone to give us a little tour, if you will. So that'll be coming as well.
Okay. I
Yeah.
I'll say this,
So
we still, as you touch upon what our main topic is, but, uh, actually our main topic is us talking. But, I am looking forward to seeing the church decorated for Christmas now that we've finished uh, all this work, and it's been a good work. I mean, there are a few
mhm,
things. There are gonna be a few things that are going to be, added. Um, one of the things that I received, via donation were 2 adoring angels
hmm,
kneeling down. So we are arranging it to get them up on the altar, by adding an extra, um just a little extra platform onto the altar, and I think it's gonna look nice. We were kinda moving it around, seeing what would be the best place. They're not horribly big, but you don't want them
which is
too
good,
big.
right?
Yeah, I mean, in our mind, it's gonna look good, and, I wanted to add something more to the altar, 'cause I don't think you can do well, within reason,
Yes,
do
you
too
can.
much. The house of God, you can do too much.
Yes, you
Um,
can.
but trying to keep it tasteful and fitting the aesthetic that you put in place.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I'll put a timestamp for people that that won't want to listen to our catching up. But one of the bonuses to driving
It will be
from
hurt if
here,
you don't listen to it.
well, and at 2 times the speed, it's not that bad. Uh, my laugh doesn't sound so great at 2 times the speed, but that's okay. Anyway, the plus side to driving from here to go down for the mission trip was that I loaded up a lot of our religious items to take down to Kentucky for people.
Mhm,
Get we just had a lot of things sitting here, different statues, pictures, and I know a lot of people have things, but my thought was if this is something different, plus if a child wants something, they should,
mhm,
to take it. And because I remember being really when I was real little, one of the few memories I have, I guess, pertaining to these things, and there was a statue of the Blessed Mother at Our Lady of the Rosary in the bookstore that I loved. It was $45, so obviously I didn't have that kind of money, but I was like, "When I grow up, I'm gonna buy this statue." And of course, the statue was gone long before I had that kind of money, but I just remember being a kid and being, taken in by religious items,
mhm.
and I'm not suggesting people, just get as many things as you can and you make your house into a museum, but I think having something a little different. So my understanding is, this week quite a few things have been taken. Um, so maybe the next time I drive down, I'll bring more things because well,
I
I actually
mean,
did take that Saint Nicholas statue down there too. I don't know if anyone took it, but it's there when you go in December, Father, you can
oh,
claim it.
I probably
And
would.
your box of books are there for dad to take in January. So,
Perfect.
so
Alright.
mm,
Well, we've
well,
just hit the, half-hour mark. It's almost fitting that we'll, move on to, finishing up the conclusion of our series on
mhm.
the 3 theological virtues: faith, hope, and charity. And the last, uh, 3 episodes or 2 episodes, we've been discussing the sins against. And the last one, we talked
What
about the sins against hope.
Well, yeah, we broke it up quite a bit because we did sins against faith, and then we did the religion and superstition, and then, yes, we did sins against hope. And in my Catholic faith, it's
Mhm,
just one chapter for sins against hope and charity, and we
mm,
decided to split that as well. So,
break that up a bit here. So, My Catholic Faith, page 197, also section 97. What are the chief sins against charity? The chief sins against charity are hatred of God and of our neighbor, sloth, envy, and scandal. Without charity, faith and hope will profit us nothing. For God will not open the gates of his kingdom except to those that love him. If I should speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have charity, I have become a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. 1 Corinthians 13:1. 1. Every grave sin is a violation of charity because it destroys the love of God. If you love me, keep my commandments. John 11:15. Hatred of God or of one's neighbor is a special offense against charity, but it by it, that makes more sense. By it one desires evil or harm to befall, or rejoices at the misfortune of others. To desire death from a yearning for heaven in order to be reunited with God is not wrong. The Apostle Paul himself sighed, "Who shall deliver me from the body of this death?" Romans 9:25. I am desiring to depart and to be with Christ. Epistle to the Philippians 1:23. But to desire death out of impatience or despair, or to wish death or misfortune to another out of selfishness or hatred, is sinful. Uh, Desiring evil to befall another misfortune. I kind of remember seeing the movie that was made a few years ago, Therese. It's a
oh,
cute
yeah.
little movie. It's an easy movie to watch, and but it opens up with her was very young before her mother passes away, and she makes a comment to her mother, says, "Mother, how I wish you would die." And the natural reaction to everybody is, "Why would you say such a horrible thing?" As a child, she reasons, says, "Well, you said the only way we need to die in order for us to get to heaven, and I want you to go to heaven. So I want you to die." It's pretty sound reasoning from a child, even though they're missing a few things. Um, but you take it for what the desire is, the desire for heaven. And I have met many elderly people, especially elderly, or those who are suffering from some grave illness, who have prepared themselves spiritually as best as one can, especially being fortified with the last sacraments and such. Says, "Father, I'm ready for death. I'm ready." It's the last the lady whom I had the funeral for down in Illinois. uh, It's been a while since I've seen someone with that resolve, that I am ready to die. I'm ready to meet my maker. And there was a peace that came over her, especially after receiving extreme unction and receiving viaticum. Uh, I'm not going to, oh, no, it would there were a lot of humorous things that actually occurred during that, my getting down coming down there. But I'll just say this, she did not look like she was about to die other than, just like she was not long for the world, but she ended up dying the next day. And
the
I said, "Well,"
circumstances of that were because you were actually on your way to Illinois.
I was on my way to
Yeah.
Illinois.
And
I had to drive a little further west, about another close to another hour, but I had mass in Rock Falls, and I drove out there, and she was prepared. She was ready, and, I but we could only I could say I could hope and pray that I will have that resolve, that confidence in the mercy of God, trusting. It said, what, those that love God. He will not close the gates of heaven to one that truly loves him. But what does that mean? That means
it
it's not our will, but God's will.
and I think it's a little harder when you lean towards more of a scrupulous mind,
Mhm,
it can consume you. So this is where I
mhm,
don't maybe I don't give enough thought in these things, but and maybe right now that's just my mind and my soul working together to kind of protect me
mhm,
from spending too much time in my past, and then what does that mean for my future? And then I'm not even thinking
uh-huh,
about what am I doing right now? And,
mhm,
um, and it's one of those things where, especially in our situation, where we have a limited number of priests, and even though I have the ability to go to mass most days of the week, that doesn't mean, when His Excellency is out of town, something happens to me and maybe, he can't get back in time. And I don't really worry about those things because God knows our situation better than we do. 'Cause I know there are a lot of people in across the country in different missions that maybe they won't get extreme unction. That maybe you would hope that your family knows what to do in those situations, and if that hasn't come up, take this as a sign that maybe you need to make clear what you want,
mhm,
especially if because there's families out there where you're the Catholic and the rest of your family doesn't care, but they should love you enough to make sure that you get what you want and
mhm,
deserve, um, to have those things available. This is who you call, etcetera,
mhm,
and but also just realize that, while it's ideal to receive those sacraments before death,
mhm,
if for whatever reason the priest can't get there in time, know that again, God knows the situation even better than we do, and He'll take that into account. That
mhm,
so that's why we still have to do our part. We still have to live for God and to love God and to want to be with Him in heaven. I mean, that's the whole um, one of the biggest things we bring into our catechism right from the beginning. Little children know to be happy with God in heaven, I must know, love, and serve Him. And of course, there's a lot to that, but and when I say a lot, doesn't mean like, oh, that's a big thing. Love is a beautiful thing. So, but
yeah.
I could see how when you think about that, and I think the older you get too, like that might weigh heavy on your mind. But just rest assured, again, God knows the situation, and as long as you don't do anything to prevent, and I don't know exactly what that would look like, but I guess as long as you made it clear to your family to know what to do, leave the rest to God.
And the thing the family must do, even if they know the priest is coming, you come together with the sick member of your family, and you pray a rosary, encouraging them also in making acts of contrition, acts of faith, hope, and charity. And as it even says in the uh, exhortation after giving the last rites, the priest reminds the individual, turn your mind to God. Don't worry about the things of the world anymore. This is your occupation. Have on your lips the names of Jesus and Mary, remembering that God is not just your judge, but He is your loving Father, and He wants you in heaven.
Yes.
And rest assured that, you know, all the means have been provided for you, and even making that, what I say, the perfect contrition. Or people say, "Well, Father, it's I don't necessarily need a perfect contrition if I go to confession." That's true, but we should always desire to have the perfect contrition, because what that means is we are sorry for our sin because it offends God. That is the primary reason, and that should be what moves us and strives us in our contrition, in our sorrow, because it is for in God who we're meant to live, to live for. And then I'd say, yeah, and to live, because as St. Paul says, no longer I, but Christ the Lord who lives within me.
Mhm. And I would just add that for those who maybe as of this point now are thinking, okay, I really do need to think about what the setup would be. What's the game plan if something were to happen, and to let family know.
Mhm.
And just remember that our priests, you won't be you won't be the first family that the priest encounters to have to deal with relatives that might have given you a hard time. You all have you deal with people quite a bit, and I'm not saying, like, everybody's difficult. I'm just saying don't let what you think your family's reaction is going to be to things stop you from doing the right thing, and that trust the fathers, that they know what to do. And I'm sure you have seen many people rather moved, comforted by what you've done, even if they've been fairly indifferent to the whole matter prior to. And who knows, and even if you don't see something right away come out of that situation, even letting them experience that might be something that's in the back of their mind for the future, you know?
Mhm.
So that's why we shouldn't hesitate to let people experience our customs, um, because you just never know what it'll do to a person. It's just as when you visit the infirm, the sick, there, we talked about that in a episode a while ago, the customs of how your conduct should be when a priest comes to the house. Those things all have its place, importance, and it is part of our Catholic culture, if you will.
Mhm. Oh, okay, you're finished. Sorry, it just the screen kinda looked like it skipped for a moment, so I wasn't sure whether you finished or it just
It's
was
okay.
skipping. So,
That's okay.
uh,
You get fuzzy from time to time, so
yeah.
you know,
Oh,
just roll
so
with
okay,
it.
it's on both ends here.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, and if you wanna have that charity for your loved ones coming to that time of their life, you have to practice that charity in your whole life. First, with the love of God, and then the love of our neighbor, not desiring evil upon anybody, not wishing, the worst for them,
Mhm.
wishing they could convert, wishing that perhaps that something would befall, wishing something might befall them to help wake them up, but not anything, that would harm them or hurt them. Uh, we have to keep that in mind when we deal with our fellow man. Okay. Let's move on to number 2, sloth. Sloth is a sin against charity because it paralyzes the faculties of the soul. One who is ruled by sloth is too lazy to love God or his neighbor because such love or zeal takes trouble. Sloth begets tepidity and indifference. Someone has said with truth that a great sinner may become a great saint, but a slothful person never. You don't really think of sloth as a sin against charity until when you read this, you're like, "Yeah, it would be,"
Mhm.
because we're not even putting forth the effort. The person who says, "I hate this one individual," that you could work with that. If a person has zeal, well, our Lord himself said, "I would rather you be hot or cold, but because you're lukewarm, I vomit you from my mouth." And I go to the example of Saint Paul, Paul of Tarsus. Would Paul of Tarsus become a Saint Paul? the vessel of election, if he did not have that zeal, that drive, yes, it was misdirected. It was in persecution of the early church, but God did not, no, of course, destroy that of Paul. He elevated it for his good work, and he took that zeal, which I'm sure was amplified,
Mhm.
and he spread the gospel. He helped establish the early church. We have to pray for zeal in the practice of our faith. What we do each and every day in maintaining our prayer life, we have to have zeal. We have to want to, have a love for prayer and a love for, knowing our faith. But then how we go out into the world, how we deal with people, to have a zeal to live our faith, to practice it, in public, whether or not, we'll be ridiculed, and in that, showing people that, that we do have a love, we do care for them in how we act, just as the early Christians showed one another that love, and that moved the pagans to convert. So we have to keep
Eh,
that fire alive.
well, and as we all logically know, the better attitude we have at the start of our day will sets the tone for the rest of it. And I know for a lot of us, illness might make it a little harder to just rise and shine, just get your feet on the ground and go for it. You might have to ease your way into it, but we all know that if we get going right away, we will get more things done. Whereas if we kind of slowly
Yeah.
take it in, it's easier to find reasons not to do things. Or it and I know I bring it up a lot when it comes to, like, exercise, but
Mhm.
it's just, I'm realizing for myself just because it can get so busy that I need to do that pretty much earlier in my day. I mean, there's some things I like to do at night for flexibility and whatnot, but to
Mhm.
get that done right away. Same with the prayers. As much as I would love to spread out more of my time, more like as in community life, but right now that's kind of hard since I don't have a community. But I and I've been doing it more and more is saying my rosary right away in the day, earlier in the day instead of saving it for later because it gets harder to do. So, for me personally, I mean, and that's not to say, well, an evening family rosary is a bad idea. No, if that's part of your schedule routine, then that's when you should do it. But for me personally, I need to kind of not to like so I could get it out of the way, but I find I'm more productive when I try to get these things accomplished as soon as possible.
No.
Because when I get to a certain point of the day,
Mhm.
thinking is just not it's not possible, like, to get
Well,
any projects done. Bridget saw that when she was here, like, by 5 o'clock, I'm not worth work-wise. So
well, as the saying goes, "Don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today." And you can, modify that, so don't put off to later what you can do right now. And it's it's all about pleasing God in all that we
Mhm.
do. And if we have that drive, that zeal, laziness and sloth will not be something that, we become accustomed to. Do not become accustomed to it. Um, if you ever feel like you're bored, and oftentimes as people feel lazy, they feel bored. In the practice of our faith, we should never feel like that. It's because if it is something that we're excited about, we're engaged in, um, that would not be something that we find ourselves, falling into. Okay, I wanna move on to this
Uh-huh.
next one here. 3, one is guilty of envy if one is bitter about another's good fortune, considering such as a detraction from one's own well-being. An envious man is sour against the good and holy, wishing he had their attainments. but taking no steps to improve himself. Envy is the sin of the devil, the sin above all that implies malice, a sin that leads to calumny, gossip, hatred, and other sins. The best means of overcoming envy is to do every good possible to our neighbor, especially to the one we are tempted to envy. There is no reason for envy. It will not make us any richer, more popular, more satisfied. Satan envied Adam and Eve, so happy in paradise. The Pharisees envied Jesus Christ, the wonderful miracles he worked, and his consequent great following. We should be content with the blessings God gives us. And I'll just sneak in there that yes, our temptations, our crosses are also blessings of God because they help prove the just man in the fire of tribulation, how just as gold is purified, so too are we. We should praise God what we see our fellow man be blessed with, and especially if it took, their cooperation, their effort. Okay, people, make comments about how someone gets paid this much more than I do and or, whatever profession, and I said, "Well, this person took the time. They went and studied this. They worked up the ranks, have years of experience. Yes, they are gonna get paid more." Says, "Yeah, but I do the same job." "No, you don't. You don't do the same job, not really." It's, kinda reminds me of a man who came to an owner of a, of a train, wholesaler, and he had his salesmen. He had about 4 or 5 salesmen, I think, and one of them was probably his best salesman, came to him and said, "You know what? I should be making what you make because I do all the work. I get you your business." And the owner's just laughing. He's like, "You wanna make what I make? Okay, sure. Writes him a check for a 0 because I don't actually make anything. Everything goes back into the business. Yes, it goes back to paying home, but most of this goes back into the business. So in the end, I don't make anything." I said, "You wanna take on the share of the business and pay for the lights and everything?"
Overhead.
You know? I mean, let's be content with our blessings and praise God when we see another being blessed and say, if God wants me to have such a thing, well, maybe I pray for it. Pray for it. God might answer your prayer and say no, or maybe not at this time. But if we seek first the kingdom of heaven and his justice, all else will be provided. So we should be content with what we have.
Well, and the realization that what might look that your neighbor is succeeding or has all the things, and especially in this day and age with social media, we see curated um, moments of people's lives. Even all of that, don't forget that
Yeah.
people have made sacrifices. Now, the person that's showing you a very curated section of something made a sacrifice to some degree. Maybe it doesn't seem like a worthwhile sacrifice to you, but it was still a sacrifice for them. And, and I know also, very commonly people, and I know nepotism happens. There's also things like generational wealth that might be into play for some people. The thing is, I've I don't know anyone personally that has benefited from such things. Everyone that I know that is living comfortably, if you will, is because they sacrifice greatly at some point.
Mhm.
And whether that's, pursuing a higher education, that's still a sacrifice. Whether, I mean, looking at our parents, and, there's probably a point in time where I'm sure dad kind of wondered what life would be for him in his mid 70s,
Mhm.
when, money's tight and you're raising a family and how much of this is going to carry over until when it gets close to retirement um and that's the thing I think a lot of people forget when they get out of high school, get out of college, and they see older people our parents' age, maybe a little younger, and they're able to go on trips and they're able to do this. That's because they sacrificed a lot when they were younger. I look at a lot of our families who are, in retirement age that are comfortable, but that's because they sacrifice a lot to get
Well,
there. And they're still continuing to make sacrifices. It's not as if um they could just throw money around, whatever. They have to still be very intentional in what they do,
yeah,
and as a Catholic, you really should have that mindset. You should still really, more than ever, live within your means, and just that reminders, and it is hard not to get caught up in what you see other people have, and they make it seem so easy, so
mhm.
perfect, but again, they made a sacrifice to show themselves, whatnot, so.
And what we see there as you're mentioning that, the concept of the sacrifice, uh, is like it is following the principle, like, of what Saint John Chrysostom pointed out is when we deal with things in charity with other people. We should go out of our way to understand and excuse another person, even in a fault,
Mhm,
but be harder on ourselves. We try to find some way of being charitable and understanding for the person. Uh, ye yes, we still condemn the sin, but we're dealing with
mhm,
the individual. We have to be a little bit more tactful. Of course, each circumstance is a little bit different,
right,
but
correct.
keep that in mind, to have that charity, that understanding, and that keeps us from speaking evil, falling in the sin of gossiping and throwing out calumnies. If we only speak what is good and true, what is hopeful, that is that is what we should look. What does it say? Silence is golden, and we should never want a bad word to cross our lips. Okay, finally, for scandal, which we kinda lead into that now, is given when we injure our neighbor's soul by causing or tempting him to sin. As charity helps him towards heaven, so scandal pushes him towards hell. Our Lord said, at the end of the world, the angels will gather up of his kingdom all scandals and cast them into the furnace of fire, where there will be the weeping and the gnashing of teeth. We have a duty towards one another. We have a duty in our faith to be in our faith to be an example to one another, to encourage each other in growing in holiness and how we deal with one another. As St. Paul says, speak to one another in psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, giving glory to God, being encouraged with one another, to be inspire one another. That in a way we show love because what it all comes down to is desiring for the other soul. You're desiring their salvation. You're desiring that they get to heaven. And by that, hope they themselves will desire the same for you. And we encourage, we help. As St. Augustine said, we're not as good as we could be by ourselves, nor we're as bad as we could be by ourselves. We're social creatures and we need each other's help. Well, sister,
That's
anything else? Any final pearls of wisdom?
uh, I was just kinda the thought that came to my mind, is setting that good example, and it doesn't have to be anything big. It's just, you being consistent in what is important. And, if you're out with friends and having the courage, and I won't say courage, it might fluster some older people as like, well, they should be able to do it. But you're out with your friends and you're having a meal is to still pray before mealtime and be confident in that don't be afraid to do it for what others might think. Or maybe it's also an issue for some people. It's a Friday evening, you're out with friends to choose to not to eat meat because, well, that is law of the church.
Mhm.
And, you know, I would say for most of the time, people probably don't even notice. And then, but if they do, the answer is very simple. It's, a law of the church, and I do it in memory of our Lord's sacrifice. It's not a big deal, um, but again, it does take, especially I think when you're younger, it can be harder to stand out in those ways. So, but these are things that are part of the good example. Making sure that, you're not gonna stay up too late on a Saturday because you have mass on Sunday morning. And your
Mhm.
friends are like, "Well, why?" And then I think when we talked about this before, when you're younger, I think you can kinda be out later and still get up in the morning, but not everybody. But prioritizing that, or, you're not gonna go to this event on a Sunday morning because you get to go to mass, and using the terms "get to," you can join them later afterwards, but those little things, um,
Mhm.
are important. Just don't think that this has to be a big thing for it to qualify. These are the things, and these are the things that are going to help you, um, well, really
Right.
succeed, but take on something, or not take on something bigger, but you'll be able to handle something bigger,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that's it.
Well, I'm gonna do something that we don't normally do, but, just following really what, with my Catholic faith, it brings up a scandal. It takes us to pages 218, 219. Bad example, scandal, sins against the 5th commandment. Uh, we might as well just kinda continue on with that and continue that discussion.
Okay. Right now?
I was ex I'm sorry, I was expecting, like, "Oh, yeah, father, that's a fantastic idea, let's do it. Come
Okay,
on.
that
Where's that zeal? Where's that fire?"
that's a good point. Um, I guess because I felt you were showing me signs that you wanted to wrap the episode up, so this just took me by surprise.
I am looking to wrap the episode up, but I figure I'll wrap the episode up by just saying, "Hey, we're gonna continue on talking about bad example and scandal so we can get a clearer idea." So in our next
Okay.
episode, we'll talk more about that. That sound good to you?
Okay, so are we talking about it now or later?
No, next episode. I've said next
Oh,
episode.
well, you did just now, but okay, yes. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I guess I
I
wasn't clear. I think I mumbled that.
maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, well, the second time you brought next episode, so that's why I got confused. So you're giving us a little teaser for the next episode is what.
that's what I'm looking to do. But
Okay.
also I had to bring it up to you and said, "Should we do this?" See, I was kinda
Oh,
doing 2 things at once.
sure. Sounds great, Father.
Great.
I'm all for it. Looking forward to the next time.
So am I. Well, then we're gonna say, well, Deo gracias.
Gracias.